A young Rick Ankiel was one of the most promising pitchers in the game to start his career, but things took a sudden shift at the worst time during the 2000 playoffs when suddenly Ankiel was nowhere close to finding the strike zone, suffering from the yips. Ankiel only pitched 2 more partial seasons in the majors as a result, but miraculously returned years later as an outfielder. So let's look at how Ankiel's pitching career came to an unfortunate end and how he came back.
Totally sports-esque. Major League.
Rick Ankiel was born in Florida in 1979 with 2 siblings, and his father would impact his life early on and into his adult life. His father was very hard on him, making him run wind sprints when he swung at bad pitches in Little League games, and always telling him that he could do better, which made Rick rather shy as he was afraid to mess up. And part of the reason his father was so hard on him is he didn't want him falling down the same path. By the time Rick was an adult, his father had been arrested 14 times and convicted 6 times for offenses ranging from burglary to carrying a concealed weapon. His mother said his dad has been his coach, his friend, and his foe. Rick acknowledges that he may have gone down the wrong path if his father wasn't so hard on him, and the work paid off by the time he was a senior in high school. He made great strides over his 4 years, and in his senior year at Port St. Lucie, he went 11-1 with a .47 ERA while striking out 162 in 74 innings. And for this, he was named the High School Player of the Year by USA Today. And every college and major league team came knocking on his door. And it was the Cardinals who ended up picking him in the second round of the '97 draft, where he received a $2.5 million signing bonus. And he quickly made himself known. In '98, he made 28 starts, pitching 161 innings, posting a 2.63 ERA, and striking out 222 for a K/9 of 12.4. This led him to being named the top pitching prospect in the Carolina and Midwest leagues while starting the All-Star game in the Carolina League. He was also first team on Baseball America's minor league All-Star team and named the Cardinals minor league player of the year. And he kept going in '99. He made 24 starts in Double and AAA, pitching 137.2 innings with a 2.35 ERA, while striking out 194 with a 12.7 K/9. He received the same accolades he had the previous year, along with being named the minor league player of the year by Baseball America and USA Today. And this led to the biggest accolade, which was a call-up to the majors, making his debut on August 23rd against the Expos at the age of 20, where he would throw 5 innings, giving up 3 runs, and striking out 6. He would start 5 games and pitch in 9 games that season, with a 3.27 ERA and a 10.6 K/9. So the Cardinals had reason to be very excited about Ankiel, with a delivery that was similar to a former Cardinal lefty and a Hall of Famer in Steve Carlton, with a mid to upper 90s fastball, a heavy sinker, and a great curveball. In the year of 2000 would give him his first full season at the age of 20, as he was the second youngest player in the league. Starting things off in the bullpen, he would make 16 starts in the first half of the season, throwing 91 innings with a 3.74 ERA while compiling a K/9 just over 9, as he struck out 93, and he was better in the second half. The Cardinals went 10-4 in his final 14 starts, as he posted a 3.23 ERA in 83.2 innings, while striking out 101. And in his rookie season, he would make 30 starts, throwing 175 innings with a 3.5 ERA, and most notable was he struck out 194 for a 10 K/9. That was the second best in the National League, behind Randy Johnson. This would give him a second-place finish in Rookie of the Year voting, behind Brave shortstop Rafael Furcal, and his efforts were a big reason the Cardinals won the NL Central. But the Cardinals were banged up going into the playoffs, as just Ankiel and Darryl Kyle were the healthy starters going into the NLDS. And with this, Ankiel was slated to start Game 1 of the NLDS against Greg Maddux and the Braves. To help Ankiel deal with the massive pressure, Tony La Russa had the veteran Darryl Kyle answer questions from the media like he was going in Game 1, and later informing the media that it was in fact Ankiel taking the mound. And aside from just the pressures of starting a playoff game, Ankiel was dealing with a lot in his personal life. In March, his father was sentenced to 6 years in federal prison for drug smuggling, and later that year, his parents were divorced. But no one could see what was about to happen when he took the mound. The first 2 innings, however, weren't terrible. Ankiel gave up a hit and 2 walks in the first, but he got out of it with no runs given up, and he had reason to be more confident, as in the bottom half, the Cardinals were able to score 6 runs off Greg Maddux, and Ankiel went out and did exactly what he needed to, with a strikeout, a double given up, then a double play, and it looked like the Cardinals were going to cruise after another loud inning off Maddux that kept the score 6-0. And the reason this is all shocking is Ankiel's collapse came out of nowhere. He started the third by doing one of the worst things you can by walking the pitcher on 4 pitches. But after a meeting, he calmed down and got the Rookie of the Year to pop out. He threw a nice curve to Andrew Jones, then proceeded to throw a wild pitch. Then after that, he crossed up Carlos Hernandez, a clear indication that he was starting to lose it. He followed that with another wild pitch before walking Jones. He then got an 0-2 count on Chipper Jones, threw 2 balls, then to find a wild pitch that luckily ricocheted off the backstop. But suddenly, he would break off a nasty curve on Chipper Jones to get him looking. Seemingly the one pitch he had complete control over. But again, he got a 1-2 count on Andres Galarraga and proceeded to throw 3 balls, with the last one again hitting the backstop, which brought in Greg Maddux. Brian Jordan drove in a run with a single, and with Hernandez on edge, Ankiel threw the 5th wild pitch of the inning to Reggie Sanders, before issuing a 6th walk. Walt Weiss would drive in 2 with a single, and La Russa had no choice but to pull Ankiel from the game. And that brought his final stat line to 2.2 innings pitched, 3 strikeouts, 4 earned runs, 6 walks, and 5 wild pitches. And again, he pitched 2 scoreless innings to start. Just one of the wildest and hardest innings to watch, unless you're a Braves or Cubs fan. And one that didn't make sense. It's not like the wild pitches were a little off or Hernandez had troubles. These wild pitches were either airmailed or thrown 10 feet in front of the plate. And what at least eased some of the pain is the Cardinals still managed to win this game 7-5, thanks to the first inning, as Ankiel laughed at the fact that he was the first player in MLB history to throw 5 wild pitches in 1 inning, coming at the worst time. And the Cardinals would go on to win the series. And in the NLCS, Ankiel was again given the ball, this time in Game 2, and he unfortunately picked up where he left off. The first pitch of the game was right where his past airmails were, and unfortunately for Timo Perez, that went right by his head, and it was clear that he wasn't trying to. Ankiel actually struck Perez out, but didn't make it out of the first, throwing 20 pitches, with 5 of those going past Eli Marrero, with just 2 of those being scored as wild pitches, as he walked 3 and gave up 2 earned runs. He would pitch again in the series in Game 5 out of the bullpen, and again he was wild, walking 2 of the 4 hitters he faced, and throwing 2 wild pitches, as the Cardinals would lose the series in 5 games. And that ended one of the most bizarre sequences in baseball history. In the matter of 1 inning, Ankiel went from one of the most promising pitchers in the game to someone who had completely lost control. Some blamed it on Dave Duncan trying to mess with his mechanics to throw less like an infielder, but most blamed it on the yips, a disorder unique to sports where an experienced athlete will suddenly lose the ability to execute certain skills, losing that muscle memory that had come natural to them, such as a golfer losing their ability to putt, a kicker losing their ability to kick field goals, a basketball player forgetting how to shoot free throws, or a professional slapper forgetting who to slap. And in baseball, it's associated to players who suddenly lose the ability to throw. That can be an infielder losing the ability to throw to first, or what was seen with Ankiel and their ability to throw strikes. There's no exact known cause or cure for the yips, and there's no timetable for how long it may last. And in Ankiel's case, he unfortunately never got over it, which is why Tony La Russa said the decision to start Ankiel in Game 1 was one that perhaps haunts him more than any decision he's ever made, though he did say this before deciding to become the White Sox manager again. And it was what happened after that led La Russa to say this. Ankiel returned to the majors in 2001 and still could not find the strike zone. He made 6 starts through 24 innings and walked 25 with a 7.13 ERA. He struck out just 2 more than he walked, 1 year after striking out 104 more than he walked. And because of this, he was sent down to AAA, hoping he could find things. And he was still just 21 years old. But down in AAA, his problems became substantial. In just 4.1 innings, he walked 17 batters and threw 12 wild pitches, accumulating an ERA of 20.77, and that led him to be demoted all the way down to the rookie level, which was necessary, and where he found himself again. He started 14 games, pitching 87.2 innings, compiling a 1.33 ERA, and striking out 158. He also previewed his future by getting to spend some time as a DH, where he would hit 10 home runs with a 1.002 OPS, and for this, he was named Rookie Level Player of the Year, the Appalachian League All-Star Starting Pitcher, the Appalachian League Pitcher of the Year, and Designated Hitter. So it looked like he would be back in 2002. Not right away, but eventually. That is, until Ankiel would have to miss the entire 2002 season with a left elbow sprain. And when he came back in 2003, he started at AA, and those control issues were still a problem. He started 10 games along with appearing in 10 games out of the bullpen, and in 54.1 innings, he would compile a 6.29 ERA, walking 49 with 10 wild pitches. And the reason it was just 54.1 innings is he would undergo Tommy John surgery in July, but he was still rather young and wasn't done. He came back halfway through 2004 in the minors and looked to be back in his old form. He made 6 starts, throwing 23.2 innings and compiling a .76 ERA, while striking out 23. And most important, he only walked 2 batters. This led him to being called up in September, 3 years away from spending September in the Rookie League. And he would pitch 5 games out of the bullpen, throwing 10 innings with a 5.4 ERA. Well, not great, The most important part was he only walked one batter. Though he wouldn't make the playoff roster on a loaded Cardinals team, it appeared he had a chance to make an impact for years to come. But this is when Ankiel's story becomes one of the most interesting in baseball history. Ankiel pitched in the Puerto Rican League that winter and did well, but in his first appearance in spring training, he threw just 3 strikes out of 20 pitches. And there was when he announced that he was switching from being a pitcher to becoming an outfielder. Not necessarily out of nowhere, considering some success he had hitting, but perhaps Ankiel didn't see things getting better for him on the mound, and saw a future for himself in the outfield, even though many saw it as far-fetched. So he started the year back in Single A, this time in the outfield, and in his first season in the field, he would play in Single and Double A, playing in 85 games, hitting 21 home runs, driving in 75, hitting .259 with an .853 OPS. He also had a fielding percentage of .979 while recording 5 assists, so the year proved that he was capable. And though it would be tougher to make it through the minors as a position player than it was as a pitcher, Ankiel was in great shape. Ankiel was invited to spring training as an outfielder in 2006 and had a slight chance to make the team as a backup. He was impressive in the field with his natural arm and even showed some flashes of power. But as was a common occurrence in his life and career, he faced a setback when he injured his knee and had to have season-ending surgery on May 26. Nothing had come easy for him since the playoff game in 2000, and now his path to the majors as an outfielder was going to be even more of a challenge. He again was invited to spring training for the defending champion Cardinals, and though he didn't make the team, he was as close as he could get, starting the year at AAA. And he would put up an incredible year in Memphis. In 102 games, he hit 32 home runs, including 3 in one game against the Iowa Cubs. He drove an 89 with a .267 average and an .883 OPS. He played in the AAA All-Star game and would be the home run leader and finished second in RBIs. And his call to the majors was inevitable, and that day would be August 9, 2007. After his pitching career very suddenly came crashing down, years later, he made his way through the minors as an outfielder. He received a huge standing ovation in his first at-bat, and would later hit a 3-run home run in the 7th inning, making him the first player since Clint Hardong in 1947 to hit a home run as a pitcher, then later hit one as a position player. The one before that being Babe Ruth. Tony La Russa described the moment as his happiest as a Cardinal manager, besides when they won the World Series in 2006. It would be summarized by a columnist who said, his return after 7 years, if only 3 days long, is the stuff of legend. And Ankiel proved to not just be a great story, but of real value for the team. He would play 47 games, hit 11 home runs, drive in 39, while hitting .285 with an .863 OPS, and now had a spot on the team. He would spend 2 more years in St. Louis, playing 242 games, hit 36 home runs, driving 109, while hitting .248 with a .762 OPS. He also showcased the arm he still had, with the 8 outfield assists he made, including the 2 in one game in deep center field at Coors Field. He spent the final 4 seasons of his career as a journeyman type of player, spending some time in the minors, and playing in 309 games with the Royals, Braves, Nationals, Astros, and Mets, hitting 27 home runs while hitting .228 with a .678 OPS. After getting just 2 at-bats in the 2009 NLDS, he got more opportunity in the 2010 NLDS with the Braves, where he became the second player after Barry Bonds to hit a home run into McCovey Cub in the playoffs, which he described as the pinnacle of his career. And about 3.5 years after that home run, Rick Ankiel announced his retirement from Major League Baseball, officially putting an end to one of the craziest careers in baseball history. Ankiel's career is told in 2 parts, starting as a very promising young pitcher who out of nowhere got the yips at the worst time possible and never recovered. Then there's Rick Ankiel, the outfielder, who in the midst of struggle decided to take a huge risk and change positions, being able to adjust to Major League pitching and ultimately having more success as both a position player and a pitcher than 99% of players can dream of. And he did something only 2 others in baseball history have done, winning at least 10 games as a pitcher and hitting at least 70 home runs. The other 2 of course being Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani. And one thing he has over Shohei at this very moment is that only him and Babe Ruth have started a postseason game on the mound and hit a home run in the postseason. Shohei won't accomplish this year, we assume. And really, the ultimate story of Rick Ankiel is the perseverance. The reason the yips in baseball is most associated with Ankiel is already mentioned many times. Ankiel did this in the postseason with many eyes on him, losing control at a level rarely ever seen. A pitcher I talked about in my recent video was Steve Blass, a pitcher also associated with the yips. Blass pitched 8 good years for the Pirates starting in 1964, but it was the 1971 World Series that made him a team legend. In Game 3, Blass pitched a complete game giving up just 1 and striking out 8. Then in the deciding Game 7, he pitched a complete game giving up just 1, as the Pirates won 2-1. And the next year, he would make the All-Star team. But after that great 1972 season, Blass had an ERA of 9.85, as he could not find the strike zone. logging 84 and 88.2 innings while only striking out 27, ending the year with a WAR of -3.9, the worst in the modern era. He spent much of 1974 in the minors and retired the next year. This case gave birth to the term of the Steve Blass disease, given to pitchers like Ankiel who suddenly cannot find the strike zone. But in Ankiel's case, the reason it's so unfortunate is he was just beginning. In Steve Blass' case, he at least had those 8 good years and got to shine in the 1971 World Series before falling off. Ankiel's great rookie season would quickly be forgotten, as what came after is what is most remembered in his pitching career. While that part is unfortunate, the full story is also inspirational. To come back at an entirely different position when most would give up makes his story one of the best and also underappreciated, considering there's been many who tried to do what he did, often switching in the minors, and they weren't able to, as Ankiel finds a way to make his name up there with Shohei Ohtani and Babe Ruth. Hopefully you liked this video, and if so, please consider liking and subscribing for new videos every week. Thank you.